Dream Team. It's your boy D Neal back with another reaction video, guys. Here we are with Australia's rise to global power. Before we dive in, make sure you guys subscribe to the channel, ring the notification bell, get a video a thumbs up so it gets suggested. What we got?
Is Australia the next big thing in the world? Well, okay, I guess it's big, but I mean, like, is Australia the next hot thing? Okay, you got me there too. I mean, will the last frontier be the
It is big, it is hot, that's fact.
next frontier to rise to global power? There might be a good chance, but let's talk about some of their challenges along the way, and it's not just being surrounded by animals that will kill you if you look at them strangely. First, let's actually go to the
Mozzie animals got superpowers. From the smallest insect to the biggest mammal. They got superpowers over there.
place. It sits here under the earth out of view from anybody. It's huge, it's flat, it's coastal, and it's dry. So dry. 1/3 of Australia is desert and 1/3 of it is semi-desert, making up the outback, which changed the Australians from posh, manners-loving British criminals to brash, wallaby-riding bogans. Since they couldn't live there, the Australians huddled on the coasts into large cities. In fact, 5 of them make up over half the population, and almost all Australians live on the east coast on the other side of those mountains, making Perth the most isolated major city on Earth, so you really don't want to know what goes on there. The west was too dry, the north was too wet, the south had 100-meter tall cliffs, the interior is probably the closest thing to hell on Earth there is, and the east is actually...
It's such a good picture of Australian wildlife. It's such a realistic picture. Can I just say I love this video already and all these pictures he putting up, and he's got funny pictures. Sorry, I got the hiccups. He's got funny pictures in here as well, and I absolutely love that.
Really nice. I'm so jealous of their weather and their shining sun and their happiness and their lack of this and their... So what do these Australians in the east do all day other than catch 30-meter high waves? Duh, they farm. Australians never do anything small, and I mean anything, and their farms are no exception, being some of the largest on Earth, with 55% of their land technically used for farming, although most of that farmland looks like this. Dry and wide. Why doesn't it look like this? Because of that. The Australians don't have that. Sure, they have rivers, but the important ones where people live, namely the Murray-Darling Basin, which makes up over half of water consumption, are constantly at risk of drying up. Sure, they have the ocean, but that doesn't do much when it's saltier than the average YouTube comment section. And the billabongs around us...
When it's saltier than the average YouTube comment section. That was a good joke because it's real, because it's true. I like that.
Australia don't do much when you could be eaten alive for swimming in them. Water security is the first big challenge Australia will need to face, and so far they're not doing a great job. See, Australia gets wet from 2 main cycles, the Southern Oscillation and the Indian Ocean Dipole. Sometimes the high pressure air is over here, sometimes it's over here. How the wind works, who knows? That's only up to the Most High to decide. But however it works, all you need to know is that Australia has 3-year cycles of being very dry and 3-year cycles of being very wet, scientifically named the long dry and the big wet. This is how rain generally comes, not by the seasons but by the long and the wet. That's a huge problem for water security during the dry cycles, which have more recently been looking like a contest to burn the most animals possible. But the thing is, Australia has a lot of land and not a lot of people, so they make a ton of food and end up shipping it off to the world. Not a big deal, right? Wrong! Technically, with every ounce of food they ship off, they're also shipping off the water that was used to make that food, also called virtual water. And because of huge calorie exports, restrictions on foreign food and crops entering the country, and some subsidies given to farmers, it makes Australia the largest virtual water exporter on Earth. The driest continent on the planet is also technically the largest water exporter too, giving away as much as their stored water reservoir every year. That's not going to go very well when Australia gets even more dry from a changing climate and fires, droughts, dust storms rage on and river inflows dry up. The next long...
So are they struggling with water or not? You feel me? Is it a struggle with water or not? Because you're saying they're not doing a good job and they're going to have to find, I'm guessing, other sources of water. But at the same time, they're also biggest exporter of virtual water that's in every ounce of food that they export. So they're really exporting so much water. So they have the least water, but they export the most water. I'm confused. Y'all help me out in that comment section.
Dries are gonna feel like that. Dry and long. Did you know Australia was made when Britain couldn't send their prisoners to America anymore because of, you know, that whole thing? And they couldn't send them to Africa because the tropical diseases were seen as too harsh for even murderers to live through, so they sent them here. And then they looked around and realized there was nothing, and it was kind of hard to build a city from nothing. So they gave the prisoners economic freedom to go get a bag and build this new country. There was still some beef between the ex-convicts and the elites until the 1850s in a gold rush where a monopoly was tried and failed, so now anyone can go and get rich. Ugh. I guess these convicts now deserve real rights, so they got them. And boom, there's the whole colonial history of Australia with independence given in 1901. Now it's free, equal-ish, and ready to industrialize. Luckily,
Equal-ish.
they knew what to industrialize into. Digging! Dig, 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 dig. Australia is a massive exporter of iron, coal, gold, copper, nickel, gas, zinc, lead, manganese, aluminum, tin. Whoa! You fell asleep there. You didn't let me finish my list of metals. Titanium, uranium, silver. Yeah, if it's a metal, chances are Australia probably supplies it to you, especially iron or coal. 70% of all their exports are raw materials straight from the ground, making them a little dependent on world markets for monetary stability and making all of their other economic sectors completely uncompetitive on the world stage. But who cares? They're young and they're turnt and got ditches galore. Tripling the per capita income since 2000 from the investment put into mining by...
Was that Beijing?
Just kidding. It's mostly by the US, UK, and Belgium. China is...
Y'all know we love y'all out here in the US. You know what I'm saying? Y'all know y'all Aussies, we're mates. Y'all and us, we're mates. We're great mates. You feel me? And we show that love. Here go the money for it. You feel me?
Just the one who eats all of the iron, and the extra money is put into other sectors. Despite what I say, Australia is still a highly diversified, rich economy. Shocking, I know. Most of that economy is based in the cities, as most Australians are in fact cowards and refuse to live among the dingoes in the outback. And the data is great. Low inflation, falling unemployment, high GDP growth, and they haven't had a recession in 3 decades. Yes, decades, not years. Most of the growth coming from new immigrants coming into the barren land or feeding metal to these Asian countries who seem to never get full. What about credit? Oh, there's the problem they're hiding in their perfect shiny economy. Credit has increased almost 8 times since 2000, outpacing GDP, which only grew by 3 times. Almost all of the new credit grew from housing. Australia might be sprawling, but it's incredibly dense in the places where people actually want to live, with more and more immigrants coming into the port cities where housing can't really spread outwards, raising the price of a bungalow, and the tax code forces Australians to get addicted to buying more and more housing. They have something called negative gearing, which isn't what Lance Armstrong did when he got caught. Instead, it's essentially when you buy a house or land so that it goes down in value and you cut it off your tax bill.
We just heard about this in another video that we watched, so this actually makes sense. I actually understand what he's talking about now because I watched the other video about the Australia housing market.
20% of Australians have an extra property for investing. Rich guys, I respect it, they just want to make some money, but the main consequence is Perth being the most affordable major city in Australia. By the way, Perth was also in the top 20 most unaffordable cities on Earth in 2021. So you can imagine how the other cities are doing. It's like a country where half the population lives in LA. They might be rich, but things get expensive. So their dirty economy based on dirt, and dirt, which is also pretty overcredited and hasn't had a recession in a minute, is pretty damn volatile to swings in global metal demand and housing prices. Next time they do have a recession, I wouldn't expect it to be cute like this little koala. I'd expect it to be more...
Oh my god.
So why do I think...
So drop there.
Australia might be a growing power throughout the century? It's simple, really. They're secure. Now, young Australians may look in the mirror and feel pretty insecure about themselves, but then they'll remember, I have coal and money and food, and feel a whole lot better about themselves. They're the main supplier of raw materials to Asia. They're like an English coal miner slapped in the middle of Asia, or on the outside, I guess. And because of that, the UK, and much, much, much more importantly, the US loves to work with them. Australia is in pretty much every Pacific Defense Treaty the US and friends make, and they are huge suppliers of weapons and military technology to each other. The day the Americans abandon the Australians is the day the Americans switch from God-loving freedom to the metric system. The people
We would never abandon Australia. Our Aussie mates down under. We'll never do it.
People who say Australia is going to have to choose between the US and China one day are wrong. Australia has already chosen the US. China is only one of their buyers, a pretty big one, but it's still only one of them. If China slows down in growth and demand for ground sludge falls, maybe from their anciently aged population or insane lockdowns, the Aussies surely will too. But they still have India and Southeast Asia to sell to who are ready to grow and don't seem to be bothered with environmental ethics. And if they slow down exporting or making Tim Tams and roux sausages to keep some of their water drinkable, they can get some extra food from New Zealand, who seems to be the identical twin of Australia, except with mining switched to agriculture. Plus, Australia will never, ever, ever run out of energy, having some of the the largest coal reserves. And whenever that gets too unpopular for energy, it's legitimately the best place on earth to put solar and wind farms in the empty, cloudless, flat outback. Cheap, abundant, and practically free energy could mean more manufacturing at home. Why not make some steel plants, being a massive exporter of the two main materials, iron and coal after all? Steel factories are good for young boys. I remember my first molten steel spill.
Oh my God.
Turned me into a man. They definitely have the room to grow and let more blokes in, especially in smaller towns, being one of the least densely populated, most desolate countries on earth. That's why they'll have a great future. They're small and rich and vast with room to grow, and everything they need they have and is secure. Food, materials, energy, capital, defense, just not water unless you're talking gnarly waves. It's boring, it's slow growth, and it's not exciting per se, but exciting for a country usually means something like...
That was dope. I feel like Australia. I mean, I feel like they are already a global power, if you ask me. Right? Maybe not a global superpower, but they're a global power, I would think. Maybe they are a global superpower. I don't know. As I love my Aussie mates laying down under. I know they got issues, but what country don't got issues? It's an awesome place with awesome people. Who wouldn't want to at least visit Australia? But I know a lot of people love living in Australia, and a lot of people want to go live in Australia. That's all we got. You guys got a favorite video suggestion? You can subscribe to Patreon or drop it in the comment section. It's your boy D Neal. Out.